Good evening. Glad to see each and every one of you here. I see a good contingent from Tyler. Welcome. Y'all made the drive like I did, and hopefully we didn't get stuck in traffic. It was not I-35, but it does have its elements at times on Interstate 20. After hearing the presentation of the senator, all I can say is yes. Now I like to look at the senator like my banker and my parents. Where am I going with this? At TxDOT, we can only spend the revenue that's generated and authorized and allocated to us. He's my banker and the parent. We go to him, we go to his colleagues to ask for an allowance and what we can spend, and sometimes where we can spend it. So we are limited to some degree. We do have some flexibility, so there is a need, and there's more than one right answer. I get tickled when I see the Ray Benson commercial about being stuck in traffic. And I know each and every one of you have had that experience in different places, whether it's Longview, Tyler, Jacksonville, Palestine, or on the way down to Austin. And it is a challenge, and we do have good roads here. I do love seeing the construction signs, but we have to protect what we have. And I think that's part of what's gotten us to where we are. The senator shared a great story showing what got us to where we are with the funding. And what's interesting is we look at that the presentation, go back into the 90s when the gas tax was raised last, both at the federal and the state level. We were paying cash for everything that we needed. And I want to reiterate that. We were paying cash for everything that we needed. And that's what we needed at the time. Right now, I wish we still had enough cash to pay for as we go, but that's not the current reality. But Proposition 1, and I'm going to share some stats that lead up to Proposition 1, can help us get there as we go. General Abbott, last week I had an opportunity to visit with him, and he was with a small group, and he really posed the problem to us. He kind of looked at me and said, how come I can go faster in my wheelchair on 35 than you can in a vehicle? And he's got a really good point there. Some of the problems we have are larger than any other state. You know, we like to do it bigger in Texas. And as we say, first of all, just a little piece of trivia. When we say don't mess with Texas, who in here knows, besides Laura Krantz, who owns the copyright to Don't Mess with Texas? Anybody? TxDOT. That's right. This actually started as a litter campaign, and we're proud to own that, but that is kind of saying don't mess with Texas, but also don't mess with Texas roads, because we need to protect the things that we have. Ray did a couple commercials for us, and he's right on. We boast about $1.4 trillion a year in economic output just related to transportation. And when you start looking at all the logistics that we're responsible for, rail, the port system, the airports, the transit, related systems and the jobs that those create, it's a big business in Texas. Some of it passes through, some of it is destined for Texas, but a lot of it comes in and out of our state for various reasons. Geographically, we have international crossing into Mexico. We have an international port, which generates a lot of traffic. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Panama Canal. The number one thing that they talked about is how do we get goods and services, containers and aggregates up to the Dallas area. Whether it's 35 or coming into Port of Houston or Brownsville, where I'm leading, they're putting a lot of traffic that may be destined somewhere else, but it is coming through, it's coming from Texas and putting wear and tear on our system. Inflation has played a big problem. Senator showed his graph, what's happened with the gas tax and the purchasing power, but I want to put it in different terms. A $500 million project in 2010, just a few years ago, would cost today, because of inflation and an increase in the construction index, about $665 million. We go back, 2010, $500 million project would cost about $665 million today. While interest rates may be down, as a banker, we understand that. It's a good time to borrow. Many of you may borrow for it's a car, your house, or whatever. But that's a different reason, and that's a personal decision. That doesn't mean, on the other side of the equation, the construction cost index, it keeps rising. We have, I know we look at our maintenance workers, the competition for aggregates, whether it's asphalt, concrete, steel, a lot of competition from the energy sector. That's a good thing because it's generating the revenues. But the construction index has risen anywhere from 4 to 7 to 8% a year, well above interest rates and well above what we're earning on cash. So you can see a little bit, we're upside down. If you take that same $500 million project and look out to 2018, we're looking over $800 million with everything being where they are, where it is right now. So you can see part of the challenge. That's just one project. And as we know, the vehicle miles, miles per gallon, becoming more efficient. Here's a couple other little stats. In the last 40 years, population has increased 125%. 125%. How many of you moved here from another state? Quite a few. Welcome. Glad you're here. And I hope people are going to keep coming. The number of vehicles has increased 172% in 40 years. 172%. The highway use, meaning all the vehicles, the transportation, and other modes, buses, trucks, has exploded 238%. In 40 years, 238% of highway use. And guess what? Here's the good news. We have only added new capacity in 40 years of 19%. So if you see a traffic jam, that's part of the challenge. That's where only 19% of where we are. So, and the freight will continue to increase at 25% because of where we are, where we're geographically located. All that to be said, there's a lot of uses and pressure on transportation funding. Our needs, Texas TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, as well as many other economic think tanks have also shared with us the need to increase funding to keep Texas moving. And when we look at this, keep Texas moving does not mean just because we get out here on the roadway. Let's start with retention. I look here, we're here in Longview. Just a few years ago, Cisco made a choice to relocate and come here, Commissioner, come over here to Gray County, which is great, partially because of the geographic location and transportation system and access to the interstate. Target relocated a distribution center over in the Tyler area, right on Interstate 20 in Lindale, because of the distribution system, access to 31 and 20. Transportation is an economic driver, and we can't discount it. But we have to protect the small businesses and the large businesses that are here to let them be able to move their goods and services. And I hadn't even talked about Friday night football yet. To be able to go and travel safely, to see your friends, family, that comes first. The safety is non-negotiable. I want to share a little bit about our funding. As I mentioned, I go to my bankers. Every year we prepare a budget, which is called the LAR, Legislative Action Request. We just voted on ours to submit in for this next biennium. And the numbers I want to share with you are kind of a 2-year period, because as we begin looking at the current needs and then where the needs will go additionally, the numbers are astounding. But think back as I go through this, the population increase, the road usage increase, and also how much we've only added just a little bit of capacity. First of all, our last biennium, we had a budget we submitted of $21.2 billion. That is with a B. This year, we just approved at our last commission meeting LAR of just over $20 billion. That's a little bit less, substantially. And this is a baseline, and the baseline covers, for example, and this is for the number I'm going to give you, like $2.5 billion to provide transportation planning. That's over a 2-year period. We found ourselves a couple years ago is that when we have funding available, we did not have projects ready to go across the state. Because as Art knows, we have gotten out of the planning mode for a while because we're trying to come back down to maintenance, take care of what we have. We've got to get back in the planning mode to plan additional capacity and safety improvements along all these roadways as we go. And we need to be able, for example, if a member of the legislature, the governor's economic development office calls us and says, guess what? We have a business moving in. They may need a turn lane for safety to get the trucks off the road. We have to be able to respond in a quick manner so we can help make that happen to bring those jobs here that's generating the very revenue. $5 billion for transportation improvements, which is, and the $8.3 billion just to preserve. That's maintenance, overlays,